Hey everybody, hope you had a great trading day. Today was somewhat epic to say the least. We saw some moves today people really didn't expect to see, myself included. And some of these couldn't get out of their own way while others came out and started hitting new highs. So we're going to get into it today. I have about 25 names that we should go over. Everything from AHPI to Amazon, Twilio. There's a litany of names. Pins I want to cover. I want to talk about the biotech industry as well. NVIDIA and what I think is going to happen with semis, we're going to get into a little bit. So let's just jump right into it. Everything will be in alphabetical order so that you can come back and look at it later. Usually somebody's kind enough to put them in timestamps so that you can sort them during your trading day. So AHPI symbol's right up here. And we have this huge red cursor now, which everybody seems to like, myself included. So this was one that we played around with a lot today, trading. And I was going to go through this. This was not really that hard to play with all day today. It was actually pretty simple. So I'm going to get rid of a couple indicators. Okay, and I'm just going to show you something very simple here with this. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. So literally, all you had to do, and you really can't, it's hard to use it up the first 15 minutes, right? Okay, usually for the first half hour, it's kind of hard to use it. Once you start holding it, the VWAP, holding and breaking, right? And you look for pattern recognition throughout that, there's just trades set up after one after another. I'm just using a 5-minute chart, okay? So there's your wedge line. There's your break of the wedge line. This was kind of signaling it. You don't really have to wait for this if you're day trading. What you could just simply do is use the mini wedge that's built into the wedge, right? You see that line right there? Okay, and then all you have to do here is just wait for it to get above that level, that bar, right? 871, and you could be in the stock with VWAP as your stop, right? Very simple way to get in this, stay in it, and then you have 30 cents of risk, okay? And that bar, you don't know where this bar is going to end, but you know that this is where it opened, and you sure as heck don't want to be in it if it goes below the open of the 5-minute bar. Trades up, and then if we get rid of some of this noise by just opening it up, you can see you came back down, tested, rallied, tested, broke, threw it again, becomes support, and you can just play the line all day, right? Trades up, gets back to that 990. For those in the community today, when I called the short-term top, really what I was looking at was this. So I had these levels marked off because these are wicks. Wicks, we all know from the candlestick video that I'll link on his, is wicks are all price rejection, and we know that they're price rejection. So it's important to know that, and again, I will link that video, and I would recommend that you watch it so you can actually learn how to use candlesticks properly if you don't know how to do it. It's a simple video, and again, I'll link it at the end. But the reason I say that is because when something like this happens and you understand that wicks are price rejection, you can read price better. You become more proficient. So what did this tell us today? Right, here's our evening star pattern. So I have a wick that failed. I failed here, bonk. Looks like we're forming a flag. All right, morning star. Do I really want to hang out? Do I really want to see if it's going to come in? Not particularly, no. So that's why I called this here. Just FYI for those watching. And then that's it. We come back down. We have a nasty red bar. Cuts right through everything on the 5-minute. That's it. That's enough. Trade's done. There's no need to go with it. And then you can see how it traded for the rest of the day. As we know, that's a bear flag, so you just kind of avoid it. But they were really easy trades today. You just watch the break of this level, and you can see these patterns, hopefully. You know, in and out of this a lot today, but you could just see them. They're all over the place, right? You can see the breaks, how you come back, retest. This one was perfect. And then off you go. So that was it. That's how we traded that today. What do you do with it now? You know, I'm going to be blunt. I don't know a lot about what this company does. People are trying to explain it to me with something with oxygen in the healthcare space, dealing with the pandemic. It's above my pay grade. You know, I don't really know. All I can do is read price. And you can see how $9 has been an issue for us here. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we get another move out of it. Let's get rid of this and put in the 50, the 21, and the 200. We'll take out the VWAP. And we'll just see what we got going on. And you really have a stock that's respecting your 21 day. Be very interesting if you could get back down to here. I would be very interested if I could get back down to this level. Chasing this, not so much, right? Because you could see what, right? price rejection, and we barely got over that $9 here. So 9's a key level for that stock, and I'm sure we'll see more action with it. So ALGN has just been an absolute monster since earnings, right? And I just want to point this out. Good earnings are being rewarded. We're seeing that across the board, and you're seeing that in AMD, which was interesting. Nobody asked me to cover it. Maybe I'll cover it really quickly. And you're seeing that being rewarded. You're seeing it being rewarded with Qualcomm. So we're seeing good numbers being, again, rewarded. Some numbers, in my opinion, are misunderstood, and we're going to get to that. But let's look at what's going on here. You have a rally, and then you have follow through. It's exactly what you want to see. Your big issue here is this. So now we can look at monthlies, because monthlies are what? It's the end of the month, right? So we're not going to have a trading day tomorrow. This is what you did. So I just want to point that out. You have flipped your channel. So by doing that, it does a couple things. One, when you flip a major channel, especially on a monthly, it puts you at risk. So it puts you at risk to come back in this channel. And if it does come back in this channel, it's usually a really vicious move to the downside. So just remember that. If you see a monthly channel and you're in the outside, it's a pretty vicious move when you pop back in. But also what it can do is it can go parabolic. And we'll get into BNTX, which is one that we've been in for a while. And I'll show you how that went parabolic. Same thing with mRNA. When they broke these levels, they went parabolic. And we'll get into that. So, but what do you do now with this, right? So for me, it's very hard to chase this because I think that there's another level here that we've been respecting on the daily. And this is far from drawn perfectly, but you get the idea of where we're at and where that line is. And there is an issue here that you're going to run into. And, you know, there's another one here as well. Right? If you take this point and this point, right, you can see how you flipped it. So it is possible. Like when we start flipping these trajectories, see the angles of these lines, when you start flipping them, right, and the angles are increasing, that's what you want to see. So maybe we get through this. But, you know, that puts me at 40 points. So you're looking for 740. I don't see any reason why this is going to come back down. I really don't. You have earnings behind you. People are looking to put money into various spaces. This is breaking out on great news. I mean, you just have to start using the daily, lower bar as a stop because you're too far off the base. I mean, you don't want to use 636 now. So you basically have to use the low. So you're buying something that's a little overextended. You could get stopped out, miss the move. So I have a position in this, and I had an option position in this as well today. And what I'm going to do is I just want to get rid of all the horizontal lines. And then so this was us going into earnings. And we talked about this in our pre-market call. And the pre-market calls are public, and I'd recommend that you subscribe to the channel, click notifications, because I also do I do a live show every day in the morning. And the time varies. Usually it's 8:45, but the time varies. So if you're subscribed and click all notifications, you get a little link that comes to you, like a little box or something. Somehow they do it. Anyway, so we were talking about this a couple of days ago in the pre-market, right? How we couldn't rally, and it just was not looking good. Now, obviously, no one knew this was going to happen, or we all would have bought out of the money puts, right? But we didn't know this was going to happen, but it happened. This was giving us some indication that institutions really weren't in a big hurry to buy it. They were trying to get out of it. Maybe their channel checks showed something. I don't know. Somebody sure knew something. Because the fact that we broke out of this base and then broke back down was kind of staggering. Now, the issue for me in how to play this is relatively simple, right? You're in a level here that you have to watch. So the level that you really have to watch, to me, right, is this 3,300 level. That's where your fibs are. Okay, so I'm not, like for fibs, I look for events. So I'm taking the low, I'm not using the year, I'm taking the low, and I'm taking the ultimate high. I'm not just using 12 months. So some people do them differently. I would argue that when I do them, they tend to lie better, in my opinion. You can see where this 61.8% retracement relies, and then how that responded. You can see how this 78.6. So I would argue that when you draw your fib levels, think about looking for peak and trough versus point of time. I hope that's clear. So just another way to think about things. There's no right way or wrong way. Just do what works. So see how you're just sitting right here and look at this. What was our low? 33 what? 33.07. So I bought an option today on it. I bought calls, bought a bunch of them, and I just didn't like how it acted. I should have gotten some more support out of it today. So I got out of the calls, but I held the stock. So I just want to just disclose that. But I really thought that we should at least have tried to get to the 50-day today, and we just got nowhere. So that really shows me that just sheer volume of dumping. So before I would think about adding to this, like I don't want to, it's a $3,300 stock. I don't want to be batting this around, right, for 29 points. So I'm willing to hold it and lose the 29 points so I don't have to keep worrying about the slippage of getting in and out of it. But if you go here and look at the high, 33.6803, that's what you need to see. In order to start filling the gap, now you need 33.6803 to break. But now, and I know I sound like a huge nerd, but I love looking at monthly charts. So, but look at this. Okay? This is exactly what you want to see. Exactly. And to me, it just doesn't get any cleaner. So, look, you tried to pop out, you failed, but you came right back to this level. You did not break this level. Now, if you take out this lower low, you're going to have an outside month on an inverted hammer. Okay, if you do that, you have what? Somewhat of an evening star on the monthly. Where's that going to take you to? It's going to take me to here. Okay, take me to that level. So it could take me to 3180, 3150. So you're going to have to be prepared for that. So just keep that in mind. I do like the name. I think that down the line, we're going to be looking at it and wishing we bought more of it here. But price is price. And if it doesn't hold, we just have to go and expect it to come in and find another spot. I just wanted to cover this very quickly for the gentleman or lady that asked me about it. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. You came out, right? And you can see your key levels on your first day of trading as a company. Okay? And we can see those levels there. And see how we broke, tried to get above it, couldn't, broke, right? Got above it. You see how we're just slamming down the whole time. Every single level can't hold. Every single one cannot hold. Every single one's being broken. This is going to get broken too. It's already broken technically, and so from here, from the top of this to this level tells me that I have a 17% drop roughly coming. So that would take me at least to probably 7.25, 7, something like that. Not where you want to be. So I would recommend not being in this. I just wanted to cover this quickly. This is not something I'd be bottom fishing on. You have earnings coming out soon, and I don't know anything about the company or how that's going to go, but that's not something I would be in. So, it's very interesting. I tell people to not add to the position because we're riding this line, and what does it do? It completely encapsulates the body of this bar, giving me a bullish engulfing signal. Right? Giving me a bullish engulfing signal. And for me, my bullish engulfing signals, I look at the body more than I look at the wick. And it just means more. It's the meat of the move to me. So, but I have a bullish engulfing pattern on top of this wedge. This is going higher. This is going to rip again. And I firmly believe that. I added to the position. I've been in this position a while. I was fortunate enough to first get involved with this thing a long time ago. If you go back through my timestamps on Twitter, you can see how far back it was. But, I was very fortunate to have access to somebody that understood this stuff. And I didn't understand it. It's above, my head. But anyway, the point of looking at this is the following. So we bought this breakout, okay? And we've been in it ever since, and we've been moving the stop up. Then we did the next breakout when we broke out. And I want to just point this out. We always talk about, in these videos about don't expect the first move to always work. Sometimes you have to wait for the second move. And I'll say this phrase, the first mouse gets what? The trap. The second mouse gets the cheese. Sometimes the first mouse gets the cheese. So you have to be willing to put a trade on when that happens. And if you didn't do that then, you missed 75 points. So we have one trade that we did that we're up over 100 points on, and we have another trade now that we're up 75 points on, right? And we keep moving the stop up, and now we're going to have to move the stop up again, in my opinion. So looking at that, I just want to get that clear. To me, I'm sitting right on that key level at the close today, going into when everybody's starting to get this fervor of the Delta variant. Again, this is not my field of expertise, but what happens if something positive, I'll use the weekly versus the monthly here. What happens if something positive comes out that shows that this stock or this company is better positioned than mRNA? I mean, there's a reason why their partner, and this is what I'm pointing out, look, I'm gapping. And you even have another one here. Hold on one second. You even have another one right here. So what I'm trying to point here is that with this gap, this is everything that you want to see, right? It's doing everything that you want. But look at this. So I would argue that if it takes out a new high, that you can actually trade it again. I think it's going a lot higher. I raised my price target to 384. I feel like I'm going to have to raise it again. I think there's massive accumulation going on. This is Visor, okay? And let's just look at Visor so you can understand this, okay? This is Visor breaking out of a cup. Now, usually what happens when you break out of a cup is you form the handle and then you go, right? Maybe that happens. Maybe it doesn't. But this is the level that you'd be looking at Visor. But Visor doesn't move like this. And they just came out and, they just basically came out and said that they're looking at having to do possibly 3 shots and boosters, and COVID's not going away. So, with that, you could be looking at booster shots and then keep changing the variant. And, again, it's above my level of expertise, but picture something like a flu shot every year that we have to get, right? And I don't want to get into the politics of it. I just want you to think about that for a minute. I mean, the level of money that could be made on the company that owns that is pretty staggering. I'm surprised no one ever bought them, frankly. But to me, taking out this high, I'd be all over it again. And again, disclosure, I've had a position in this for some time. Cat, I was asked to cover. I'm going to get rid of this. I think what we're seeing here is we're starting to see the industrials really come in as if we're going to see a slowdown in the economy again. That's how it's trading, right? That's how Caterpillar's trading. Let's go look at John Deere, right? John Deere's actually has a higher relative strength. Why? Because it's above the 21 and the 50, right, to Cat. But it's still not looking great, right? So we really need to hold the 200-day. I don't buy this. But if I was a value investor and I was interested in this stock, this is exactly where I would buy it. And this is how these stocks trade. They trade based upon valuations, right? It's very different than the names that I usually buy, which are not really valuation based, more, momentum and, hype, and you want to be in them, and leadership position, things like that. They move for different reasons. They all move on discounted cash flow, but the volatility of that move is just different. But anyway, so I would do that. And then what I would say to you is if you break that 200 level I just marked off on Caterpillar, it's time to get out of the way, because that would cut through this little wick down here and your 200. And by that time, your 21 is going to point down and cross this. And that's not where you want to be. And we can take a moment here and just look at this on a monthly. And you could see right here, right? We have that H pattern that I always talk about. But I just want to point this out. Okay, so that H pattern broke here, opened, and then closed above it. So you may have a failed H pattern here, right? And by failed H, meaning that it didn't break. So that could lead us to heading back up here, right? So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes these levels, this is really where you want to buy them. And again, we can just point that right here, and you can see how much cleaner that is there, right? Look how much cleaner that looks. So I get it, and I understand why you'd want to look at it here. Maybe I would argue that you want to see it go a little bit higher, but the issue is then you're going to have to change your stop. You could buy it right here, use this, what I just gave you as your stop, and it costs you $6. And if you get stopped out, you move on with your life. So Costco, so I'm going to start getting rid of these because now everyone should be able to see them up here. I really like this name, and I really like this name, and I really missed it. There's really no other way to say it. I just was so hyper-focused on my semiconductors and biotechs that this breaking out of 390, I just really did not get involved. What's fascinating to me about it is, these are the types of stocks that are starting to move again, right? You're really starting to move on the, people went to Costco, people went to Walmart. Those stocks moved during the pandemic. So if that heats up again, people might start buying in bulk. There might be a reason why this is moving. And since we broke 390, it's just been a cloud. I mean, there's really no reason to do anything. I bet you if you put the 8-day on it, it's almost identical. Yep. So look at that. I mean, it's beautiful. What do you do now with it? Look, you can buy it. I mean, what you have to do is look and say, okay, here's my flag. There's a little bull flag here. I broke that flag. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to use this as my stop, 426. Where would that take me to? It still gives you 25 points. 25 points, right, for 3 points of risk, right? It's not the worst trade in the world. 3 points of risk for 25, okay? That's pretty good risk versus return, right? If you could do that all the time, 8 to 1, it's not a bad spot to be. CRCT, again, I just want to cover this one very quickly. You are breaking your 50-day, your 21 and your 8 have crossed and they're both pointing down. You cannot get above your 21-day. You cannot get above your 8. You cannot get above the 3580 support level. If we get rid of these indicators, you can see clearly this level, right? Bonk, bonk. Get through it, flips it. Support becomes what? Resistance, bonk, 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 bonk. Can't get through it, right? Comes up here, finds a new one, breaks down. Here we are again, right? Same soup reheated. No reason to go near this. DDD, I wanted to cover. I get asked a lot about it, and I like the name. What I don't like is what's going on with small cap types of companies right now. So I'm avoiding it. I like that we're above the 8-day. I think what's going to wind up happening here is we're going to pop up a little bit, base for a while, and then go higher. The earnings on this company are staggering. They have not really changed as far as growth. I mean, if you look at like the earnings here to here, and you see a double in earnings, that's not really reflective of what's going on with the company. Kathy Wood did a great piece on this. And about 5 years ago, 5% of all 3D systems were from aerospace. Now it's like 15, 20% of these 3D printing companies, their revenues are coming from aerospace. So I think that's kind of fascinating. And I think aerospace is a growth industry. So I expect this to continue. But I need to break that 28.32 before I even think about it. And I'm hanging in there, right? I am hanging in there. Let's look at this on the weekly. Right? It's just not pretty. It's just not something that you really want to get involved with. You have this huge, right? I mean, there's a huge overhang here. So I have to trade up into this. So it's going to take some time. DHR. So I'm going to have to not cover AMD. I've got so much else to cover. DHR, Danaher, you broke out here, held, retested that with the 21-day, came out and you broke out again. Really nothing to do here. If you're in this, congratulations. It's a great trade. Stay in it and just watch your trend line. Right? You got to watch that because you're right into it. It looks beautiful, but it might hold that channel. So just be careful with it. ENPH is one I really wanted to cover. And I got asked by a lot of people on it. And I understand why. And let's just really just dig right into it. So we're going to get rid of this. This did everything right today. And I just stayed away from it for a whole litany of reasons. I was more interested in building positions today in some of these other names. But if you look at what's going on here, this is about as perfect as you can get. Now, with that said, we already have the earnings behind us. It already traded. And this is what I think you're going to start seeing. You're starting to see companies that had decent earnings. They sold off. Then someone realizes that they're selling off, and then they start buying them. And there's a couple names in here today that we're going to go over that I think are doing exactly this. So just keep that in mind. But in regards to this, I really like this name, and I like what we're doing here. Look, you have a bullish engulfing pattern on your daily, okay? You come up here, and you draw from this point on, okay? And you're sitting right there. Look exactly where you stopped. If you flip this level, you're going to 196.02. Flip 196.02, and this thing's gone. Like, this will run. So it's definitely on the radar. It's definitely on my short list. You know, for me, I'm not really interested in the 5 or 6 points. I'm trying to get back into this, and I can show you this better here. I mean, look at this trajectory, right? You broke down, and again, these patterns, these candlestick patterns, that's why I hammer them. Here's a morning star pattern, right? Here you break above that morning star. What was that level? 140, right? Boom. And you should have taken you up to here, kept going. Now you have a new high, and now this monthly just happened to close where? Right at the top of there. So it's very interesting. So really what you're looking for on this monthly for this to continue is a move above 196.02. And that's really what I'm looking for before I get involved. Ford, you know, Ford is just, I'm going to just walk through this again, and I've been saying this for some time. This is a 21-year secular, right, move, okay? You broke out. It did the exact opposite of what you wanted to do when it broke out. Breaks up to here, forms this little inverted hammer, breaks that level, sells down, and now we rest right on this 1394 level that we've had forever, okay? What are we going to do with it now? You're going to have to sit, watch, and wait, because right now, with this pattern, this red bar is in charge. So you have to wait now. And what's that going to do for us? I mean, we broke this wedge, and we broke out, and then we broke below this level, and now we sold back down to it. So I don't see a big hurry to do anything here. I really like this company. The biggest issue that I have with it in looking at the chart is there must be so much supply of stock that people want to get out of, because look how many red days you have on any rally. You have one rally up, and then they just sell it for a week. One rally up, right? And then they sell it for a week. I mean, here, I can get this out of the way, right? I mean, it's constant. So, you know, you're going to have to wait for all that supply to go away. And you can see here, like, look at all this red versus when you have green. And look how much more red there is than green, except for this breakout, obviously. But so just keep that in mind. I would not be chasing that right now. It's just not acting right. But I do think over the course of a year, it will outperform. I just think it's going to take time. And it looks like somebody really wants out of it. Juniper Networks. So our key level was 27.83 on this one. And guess what? We're over it. So we're actually where we want to be. On top of that, you have a wedge right here that you've broken. And now really to confirm that wedge break, all you really need is to get above this wick right here, 28.29. I like this a lot. This could go. This could really go. And you have a nice long look. I mean, this thing's been around forever, for those that don't know. Forever. So I'm old enough to remember trading it back here. So, but you could just see this base, right? We can get rid of all this. Okay, so you can see where you were at for the past decade. Okay, so getting above these levels, it starts getting very interesting, right? Because you can start working off these red bars. So what we need to just see is we need to see what happens here. But I like this, 28.29. That could be really interesting. I wonder what point of control is on this. So let's just take a moment and look at it. Yeah, I mean, you're way above point of control. You're above your VWAP. I think this looks great. So LABU, you just can't go near this. I keep waiting for it to rally. There's no reason to go near this. It just keeps failing. If you really want to play one, this acts better. But look again, what's going on here? We broke. So it's not something you want to chase. You know, BIB. We're not breaking, right? It's like I've been saying about this too, and I know the person who does the timestamps is going to get mad, but this is doing what you need it to do, right? This is the opposite of what's going on there. Okay. And good earnings are coming out. Look at this close. When was the last time we closed there? Back here. It's like a month, right? And now you have another close there a month later. Let's look at that line for a minute. Let's get rid of this so you can see what I'm looking at. Let's get rid of this line and just put that line right on the close. And you can see how substantial this close was. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We can call these 5 and 6 that we've said we're closed there. So 6 times we've closed here. Okay. 6 times you've closed above this line since this has been out. You need to pay attention to things like that. And this is the XOL, which is the 3X versus things like this. This is breaking out. Okay. No one's talking about it. We're all watching, Amazon today and Snap and everything else. And no one's talking about this breaking out, making an all-time high today. I didn't see anybody, any chatter, nothing. I have a complete hammer on the stocks and we're not discussing it. So we're discussing it now. To me, this is setting up to go to the top of this, which puts me at 467. That is a 10% or 10-point move on an index on the weekly. And what would that do, right? It's 2.5%. So just on that index alone, it could move semiconductor stocks 10%, just on that. And then you have to find out which ones have the higher beta. Let me give you an idea of which one of those it might be. It might be a little company called NVIDIA. And then you can just see how this is going on. And I'm going to just, AMD, very clearly who the 800-pound gorilla is now. They're just crushing. And that looks excellent, right? I mean, that just looks picture perfect. And you also saw Qualcomm, and you can see what that's doing here as well. So I like that space, but the LABU I would avoid. mRNA, it's kind of hard to look at a weekly, but I just want to talk about this because I did mention earlier that when you flip these levels, okay, that when you flip them, you can go parabolic. And that's essentially what happened here, right? So you can see how some people say, well, you should draw it from here. Draw both. Most of the time, they're going to land in the same spot. Semantics. So what you can see here, right, is once you broke, that was it. It was gone, okay? Same thing that happened with BNTX. When you break one of these levels, you're either going to fall back in or you're going to go. And that's exactly what happened here. So let's take a look at NTLA. With this, I think you're going higher, but you have a lot of room to pull back. A lot. I'm not sure that you are going to pull back. You closed at an all-time high today, just FYI. I'm not sure that you are going to pull back. But if you did, right, this one could pull back because, especially to start watching this pattern, right, the rising wedge. NTLA. So just very quickly to go through this one. There's nothing to do here. I got asked a lot about this one today, so I just want to cover it very quickly. These are all key levels. We're nowhere near above any of it. If we throw in the indicators, you closed right on the 21, and you're finally above the 8, but there's a lot of work to do here. And I have to get through this 21, then I have to get through this wedge line. And then by the time I get through there, right, that puts me at 150, then I'm going to go here for 10 points. So if you're interested in 10, 5, 10-point increments, it's something to look at. Other than that, I would just let this play itself out. When are earnings? Yeah, and you have earnings coming up down the pike on the 5th. So that's next week. So I'd probably hold off until earnings. So NVIDIA was one I just mentioned. And this never transpired, actually. So you can see what happened here. We hit that line. We just couldn't break through. Break, goes. So now what do we do with it? Well, you have to get above your 21-day and you have to close above your 21-day. And what have we been not able to do? Get above the 21-day and close above the 21-day. I would argue that it's probably going to happen soon because the 8 is now pointing straight up, which means we're going to cross the 21, which means that's going to move the 21 up, which is going to force the stock higher. That's how it works, right? Technically speaking, that's pretty much how it works. Now, with that said, you have a line here, and you have a much smaller one right here that you've been respecting. So you have a lot going on here. And the trajectory of the move is going higher and higher, which leads another point that you're probably going higher. What else I really like, and I like this sometimes, is when this line, like here's my average daily volume, right? On this is what? 37 million. Where am I at on these days? 19 million. I'm trading at like 50% volume. I love to see that. It's just like no one's paying attention to it, and then wham, it moves and everybody has to jump back in, right? No one's accumulating like they were here. So I find that fascinating. And, I think you're in decent shape here. Now, you are having to deal with this coming out August 18th with earnings. And I think the earnings should be excellent, but everybody knows they're going to be excellent. So keep that in mind. Pins I wanted to cover, and you can see all my levels on here. This was, I get it. I understand the MAUs missed. And when they missed on Twitter, they did the same thing to the stock. The question becomes, when's enough enough? I found that this was a complete over-exaggeration. It doesn't matter what I think, right? It matters what happens. This is what happened. So there's not much that we can do about it, right? We just have to accept that this is what happened. So to me, looking at it that way, right, what do? We do nothing with it. What you really need to do is the following. If you want to be long it, you cannot go near it till you get above that level. If you want to be short it, right, you have to break this level. I don't know that I would be shorting this unless I was looking for like 4 points. I don't expect this to break this fib level and this support level. I just don't. Could it happen? Absolutely. But to me, this is a washout like TTD, and then what happens, right? And then all of a sudden, this was the washout, right? Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here. We wash out, and then what happens? We just grind higher. And I think that's what you're going to see happen here. So it's just my sense of it. I think that this was a gross exaggeration. And I don't think Amazon helped our case last night in the stock. And, now you have to watch it. I've got a bearish engulfing on the monthly. Like, that's not fun. That doesn't really make me feel warm and fuzzy, right? So you're going to have to watch that. And you're going to have to watch this level. This is kind of important. This is why it's so important to run monthly and weekly charts. Look at that level. Right? Look how important that level is. We opened here, or we closed here. We opened on this bar. We kind of tried to test it here and couldn't get near it. We tested it here and bounced up, and now we're resting right on it. If you break this level, like really break this level, you could have an issue. And that issue would start with breaking 54. So then we can draw that across real quick because I'm just curious where it fits on the other bar as well. So I would just watch that. But you need those to happen. So Pentair has just been, just kind of grinding higher. It's one that we've been watching. The volume's picking up again. It's doing everything right. Okay, you had earnings, I believe, and they just went straight up on the earnings. It was a great report. Built a little flag, came back down, tested, basing, and now it's gone. So I think you're in good shape here. I don't see any reason to do anything. Just realize that you're probably getting only to this level before you have to figure out what you're going to do with it. So you have about another 4 points. And then we have to see how it acts. Qualcomm, there's not much to say. Excellent quarter. Look at the volume that came in down here on that move, right? And then we just got right through this 145.25 level. Then we got through this 146 level. And now we're starting to trade higher. I fully expect this to eventually get its way back up to this 167 level. I think that's coming. And you can start seeing this and the trajectory change with even the 5-day. So I like this a lot. And, since we had such a large base, you can look at volume by price, see the purple line and the white line, right? The purple's point of control. The white line is VWAP for volume by price and gives you an understanding of where you're at. You can see that you're above both, which is bullish. It's just firing on all cylinders. It has everything going for it. It's got this huge base. It's not that far off its moving averages. It's just cleared 2 support lines. It's got huge volume coming in. We don't have earnings risk. This is going to be an institutional darling. I mean, it's just, they're going to be able to buy it and not have to worry about what's going to happen for a couple months. It's not a bad spot to be. Technically, looking at this on a weekly, you can already see the key level that you're over right here, right? And see why that level is so important, right? Bonk, bonk, and then boom, we're through it. Okay, if you look at this on a monthly, it becomes even clearer, right? You can see that. So, and you can even see this breakdown on the monthly, which this would be the bear flagpole, and then here's your flag, right? Here's the low of the flag. Here was the top of the flag, and we're through it. Getting through the flag leads us to believe that we can get to the top of what? The flagpole, right? Hopefully these analogies make following this a little easier. 167.58 is what you're looking for. I think it's very doable. Sage Therapeutics, you know, and I'll just by looking at this, this is going to be nasty. You can't, I don't follow this one. You can't be buying this. Like unless you know something and you know something fundamental, you just really can't go near this. If you're in this, you should just probably close it. There obviously was some kind of news event that they were waiting for it to come out. You have an earnings event that's coming out. You're probably waiting for something positive on that. I don't know what you get, but it's very clear what's going on here, right? You keep losing money. You had one event where you made an inordinate amount of money, and now you're coming into this. And this volume is just enormous. Everybody just got out. Whatever this news was, everybody got out. And it seems like that was the key move. So just avoid. So silver, I was asked to take a look at this on a longer term basis. So let's look at this on the monthly. And you broke out here, and now look at what you're doing. Right? There's the bottom of your flag, and there's the top of your flag. So you have a high, tight flag here. On top of that, if we get, you're above your, right? You're above your 21 month, you're not above your 8 month moving average. But look here, right along this line. Boom. Right? And you're holding it. So, I mean, for me, does silver go higher? I really don't know. I know everyone keeps waiting for this huge silver trade to squeeze. So we seem to be having a problem with the top of this red bar, frankly. So that would lead me to believe that until we get above 27.15 and close above 27.15 on the monthly chart, there's probably really no reason to really play this. You're probably just going to bounce in here for some time, right? Yeah, in this basis for a while, it's a commodity, but that's what I would look for. So the SOXL, we already went over. I'm just going to point this out again. This is setting up to break this 44.50 level and push. Okay, I firmly believe that. Team, look, this had great earnings, just exceptional earnings. And I really like this name. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, like, I get it. This is an enormous move, and you can obviously correct off of it. But when you move like this here, okay, and you start having volume that is above average on the weekly, and we know why it just spiked today, right? Because today was the day with earnings. So this weekly number coming in the next week is going to be even greater. Now, if you look at this on the monthly, I mean, it's perfect. And what I was getting at, what I alluded to earlier, okay, you are flipping this level, okay, 290, and you flipped it. So what happens when you flip these levels? They go parabolic. So I'm expecting a very large move out of this. I think this could have a huge move still. I know it did have a huge move this month, but sometimes when you have moves like this, like with BNTX, they're pretty substantial. As far as the sell-off and the sell-down today from 350 to here, it's not exactly what you want to see, but I'm okay not being up 100 points in one day. I'm okay with that. So I think this was a gross exaggeration of people that just wanted to make sure they got a position, and now they're going to let it trade and then build a position in it. So I think this caught a lot of people off guard, but I really like the name. Twilio reminds me of one of those stocks that broke down and then reverses and goes higher. And the earnings report, to me, when I read through it, was very good. I don't see a reason for it. I think it didn't have this huge surprise. That's why people got out of it. To me, I think you're fine here. I think it could base probably, another day of this. And then I think it's going to start heading back to this 405 level. There are my thoughts on it. I think that's how this gets played. But it does this. It pulls back. I don't have a bearish. Let's get rid of these events. I don't have a bearish engulfing. We can get rid of the indicators here. I don't have a bearish engulfing here. I have an inside week. Okay. To me, there's nothing wrong here whatsoever. And go here, right? There's nothing wrong here. I mean, essentially, you tried to break out of this and just weren't able to, right? You opened right on it and closed below it. But I don't see a major problem here. Win. Okay, 151 is a key level. We broke down. We broke above this bar. Here's your bull flag, right? We're looking at the monthly on it, and then bam, we're down again. Look, with what's going on with COVID again, okay, it's very clear what the concerns are here, right? So, pardon me. So, it's very concerning. Okay, that is very, very concerning. You are broken a major support level, major. So, you know, this is actually shaping up like, you know, you're going to see a lockdown somewhere, or people aren't going to travel, and you are seeing some of that happen, and that is becoming a concern here. If they try and do something like that, I think it's going to be met with a huge amount of resistance, to say the least. So I really do. I'm just looking at this and trying to figure out the best way to play this, and I don't think there really is. I really don't. I mean, you're broken. You've completely broken through. Look at your weekly. That's a classic short. See how the high is the top of this bar, and you closed at the low? I mean, it's just an outright short. So now you're below this part, this breakout bar. You're probably going back into here. You're probably heading into the 70s. So unless you are short this, or you're looking at, and I mean, to be clear, one way to determine the size of this move, right? And you can see this H pattern here that we talk about a lot. But one way to determine this move is you take the tip, right? So you would take the top of this to here, and you would calculate the percentage if this breaks, right? You just take this huge mountain, and that's just one way to do it. So if you were to do that right here, that's a 30% drop that it's telling you. So if you just want to put that in context of what that's telling you could happen, and that's just a way to come up with a target, right? Well, let's do 30%. Look where that takes you, right? So it's very realistic that that could happen. So I would avoid. So I thought I had, well, one more, and I don't. So I'm going to do ZM. I thought I had this. I just want to go through this very quickly and look at it on the weekly and the monthly. And then we're wrapping it up. So if you're not interested in ZM, you can cut out now. And I would, again, recommend that you watch that candlestick video that will be linked at the end of this. So see how you're riding this line? I don't think this is over. I think that what we're missing here, and this is what I've been saying for a while, there's a disconnect. Like if we're going to have this where, and again, it is happening. You know, Tokyo came out today and said they're shutting parts of cities down, and they're in a state of emergency. And Sydney, Australia had some issues, and 1 million people. That's people that aren't flying. That creates fear. You're not traveling as much, right? And it's not just residential, it's business. All of a sudden, Amazon's not sending somebody to Australia. What are you going to do? I'm going to have a Zoom call. You can see where I'm going with this. So you can see an uptick in some of these. Now, to me, I don't see anything really overly broken here, right? So we're still breaking out or trying to. So I like this, and I would not rule this out. I really would not rule this chart out. I don't think this is done. I think you're getting a lot of support on that 50-day. I think there's a lot of support for what I'm saying right now as you're holding that 50-day. See how you're holding in there? Right? So 50 days where institutions buy. What's happening at the 50-day? Somebody's buying. Probably an institution. So if you keep it simple, it gets a lot easier. So what you're trying to do is flip this line. Flip this line, right? And you could enter a position, and you could use this, right, as confirmation, and let's look at the events. You have plenty of time before earnings. You have a full month, so you don't have any issues there. So that's it, everybody. Any questions, reach out. As always, I'm available.